If you're looking for one of the best value iPhones you can buy in 2025, then the iPhone 15 Pro Max might be it. And here's why. In late 2023, Apple released these 15 Pros, and with them came a new design. Somewhat new, a bit different, but new. And that came in the form of titanium. These phones were now made of a brushed titanium, somewhat matte, and this solved the major issue with the stainless steel iPhones, them being such fingerprint magnets. Like, you could literally touch the phone for a few seconds and it would be super dirty and not look clean at all. That's one of the major things I liked about this phone, having the much cleaner build. It was also said to be a lot more durable as well, which is subjective, but in my experience, using the phone for quite a while, it's definitely held up a lot better compared to stainless steel iPhones of the past. One of the new design changes that came with the 15 Pros was the action button, a customizable button you can set to almost anything you wanted. And honestly for me, this was really a game changer. Or at least I thought. When I first got the phone, I immediately set it up to the camera, I set it up to all these different things, but after all, it ended up just staying as my flashlight. And honestly, I still use it quite a lot today. So depending on your use case, it could be a really useful thing or something that you'll never use at all. Because just like how some people left the silent switch on all the time, some people will do the same with the action button. And of course, though not really a major design change, a major functionality change that came on the outside of the phone was USB Type-C. A connector we've been raving about and asking Apple to give us for the longest time. And in 2023, they did exactly that. And on the Pros, it wasn't just any normal USB Type-C like the 15 normal phones got. In fact, it was a Thunderbolt port, meaning for all of those moments where you want to transfer files from an external SSD to the phone, you could do so in lightning fast speed. A really great advantage of USB Type-C, on top of all the other great things it was, especially being compatible with all the Type-C cables you already had. Another change Apple made with the 15 Pros was the edges and the corners. Compared to the 14 Pro Max, the 15 Pro Max introduced smoother corners on the edges, meaning the phone's a lot easier and better to hold in the hand, especially for those who prefer the sleek and caseless feel. Speakers are still loud and clear on this phone, featuring two speakers, a bottom and top firing speaker, creating a nice stereo effect for watching movies, videos, and even gaming. And the microphone quality still remains clear, perfect for audio recordings, calls, and more. The display on this phone is still phenomenal. Even in 2025, it still holds up even against the greats, as they'd say. It still has that really great buttery smooth 120Hz adaptive refresh rate, meaning it goes from 1Hz all the way up to 120, and it still has a peak maximum brightness of 2000 nits, meaning even in outdoor situations, this phone definitely will be visible and readable. So yeah, in terms of screen, there isn't really anything you can complain about with this phone. Inside this phone lies Apple's A17 Pro chip. And when it came out in late 2023, it was a decent upgrade overall. Not the most groundbreaking, but definitely there were improvements. And even until this day, the performance of this phone really speaks for itself. It's still a flagship through and through. It was also the first iPhone to get 8GB of RAM, which was huge considering previous iPhones only had 6 or less. And sure, it can heat up if you're pushing maxed out settings for prolonged sessions of gaming or other intensive tasks. But overall, the 15 Pro Max still performs really well for everyday tasks and even those moments when you need to push it a little further. And on the topic of 8GB of RAM, this phone is actually the oldest iPhone to support Apple Intelligence. Now, I'll admit, Apple Intelligence really wasn't the major world-shaking, groundbreaking feature we were all expecting. But honestly, it's still nice to have the features instead of completely missing out on them entirely. Being a pro iPhone, the 15 Pro Max came equipped with 3 lenses, and they're all still really solid and great in 2025. This was also the first iPhone to get a 5x telephoto lens, not even seen on the smaller 15 Pro, so only the 15 Pro Max specifically got this longer range shooter. And zoom shots definitely looked a lot better compared to previous iPhones. The main 48 megapixel shooter still holds up really well, especially with the feature Apple added being 24 megapixel photos. A great middle ground between quality and storage space. The ultra-wide lens is still really great too. Not the sharpest, but still great for most everyday photos. Same goes for the selfie cam. And to summarize, the cameras of this phone definitely hold up in 2025. Especially if you're not into pixel peeping or really looking in the finer details, the photos that come out from this phone still remain top tier and honestly not all that different from newer iPhones in most situations. One of the biggest things I was looking forward to when the 15 Pro Max came out was its battery life. Because compared to the 14 Pro Max a year prior, the battery really was a step down from the legendary 13 Pro Max. So when this phone came out, I had high expectations for it. And when I first got my hands on it and actually got to use it, I was actually impressed with its battery life, really holding up a lot better than the 14 Pro Max did. Though, on the other hand, battery degradation has been a little hit or miss ever since the 14 series, which really wasn't the best, especially for iPhone battery degradation. I've heard reports of those saying that in less than a year, their battery was in the low 80s, while others have said that even after 2 years, their battery health was still high at around 90% or more. So it really depends on your exact use case and how you use the phone personally. Overall, this phone was a big step up from other iPhones released in prior years. So if you'll be buying one, I definitely recommend finding one with at least 90% battery health or higher. Though 80% is still okay, if you're a heavy user, you might experience the battery drain a little bit more and might need to replace it a little bit sooner. Charging speeds still remain somewhat the same as before, going up to 27 watts wired and 15 watts wireless via MagSafe. Definitely not the fastest charging out there, but still decent if you top out throughout the day. One of the things I really liked about the 15 Pro Max wasn't even a physical upgrade with the phone. It was the fact that it started with a base 256 gigs of storage, up from 128. And honestly, in 2025, and even in 2023 when this phone came out, having 256 gigs of storage should have been the bare minimum. Because with how big apps and games and more demanding tasks are becoming, having 128 just doesn't cut it, especially in a Pro Max phone. Which is why I really like that the 15 Pro Max starts at 256 gigabytes. And when it comes to resale value, iPhones depreciate a lot better compared to Android phones from different brands. And that principle still holds up really well with the 15 Pro Max. Meaning 1 to 2 years down the road, if you intend to sell this phone down the line or trade it, you should expect to get a pretty decent amount back. As of late 2025, you can find the iPhone 15 Pro Max 256 gig for around $700 to $800 which translates to roughly around 40 to 45,000 pesos here in the Philippines. But of course, the exact price depends on the exact condition of the phone you're getting and where you're buying from. You'll usually pay less if you can find this phone secondhand compared to buying from major retailers or refurbishers. And of course, as time goes on, this phone will get even cheaper, making it an even better value than it is right now. The iPhone 15 Pro Max has been out for 2 years and will be turning 3 in September of 2026. But honestly, even after all this time, this phone still doesn't feel dated at all, especially because Apple hasn't changed much in the past few years. And of course, Apple usually supports their phones for 5 to 7 years, so you can still expect at least 3 to 5 more years of major software and security updates from this phone, which means this phone definitely isn't going anywhere anytime soon. So is the iPhone 15 Pro Max still worth it in 2025? The answer is yes, absolutely. Because at the end of the day, this phone proves that you don't always need the latest to have a really great experience. In 2025, it's still powerful, reliable, and a great deal if you can find one in good condition. So what about you? Would you still buy a 15 Pro Max in 2025? Or if you're currently using one, how's your experience been? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and until next time.